Hello world, I'm Shepherd Knightley. This is Family Friendly D&D, and today we're talking about stats. Now everyone knows the standard 6 D&D stats, but I suggest for your games to be quicker, easy to understand, and to have faster paced gameplay that we limit to 4 static stats. I'll get to that in a second. But first, if you are a parent, teacher, cool uncle, anyone who wants to share this awesome hobby with kids or students, and you think you're ready to level up as the GM, then subscribe to my channel so that we can stay up to date on all my tips. And either way, let's get to the meat of the video. So we have strength, dex, con, wisdom, charisma, and intelligence. So charisma is the first thing I drop because charisma is something that I want role played. If you're a naturally shy person, then you should be playing a shy character. Now that's not to say you can't escape into the game, but I suggest you escape into the game. If you want to be playing a cool savvy bard, then play a cool savvy bard. Don't go, no, I say something charming, roll. No. For kids, that's going to break the fun of the game. We want them to role play and be goofy and come out of their shell. So let them be as convincing as they are convincing. Let them be as deceptive as they are deceptive. I mean, if they don't trick you, they don't trick you. If they don't charm you, they don't charm you. Let them be what they are. And if you do want to make a roll of it, just do a flat 20. So the second stat, because for kids, they're not going to know the difference between wisdom and intelligence. And in fact, the way D&D uses these two terms isn't how it's used IRL in the real world. And so we just make that the mind stat. Or that's what I do. And there's ways to kind of differentiate between what would be cleric spells or wizard spells. But we'll get that in other videos. These are the 4 stats I use. And I suggest you use with kids. You have the mind stat. You have strength. We all know what that means. You have what I've been calling coordination, but some people call it agility. Some people might call it skills, and it's your dex stat. So this is your. And then last is constitution, which everyone, even including adults, everyone's going to understand that better if it's just toughness. So we have the mind stat, strength stat, coordination stat, and toughness stat. Now this is what you want to do. This is what I suggest. First, determine if you want to roll high on your d20, like you're going for 20, or if you want to roll low, which like you want to get low. Both have their pros and cons. Dungeons and Dragons, in most games, it's to roll high, so that's what I usually do. These stats are going to be static. So you don't have to go, oh, what's the challenge on this? What's the DC for this? What's the armor class? If you're trying to roll for coordination, for example, which would be dex, those numbers are set. The student, the player, whoever, they have a pool of 14, which would be your weakest stat because it's the highest, and you're trying to roll up to that number, 14 or higher, which means you have about 2/3 chance. 1 out of 3 chance of getting that number on a d20. 12, and it's not your strongest skill. 10, which makes you about pretty average, a little stronger at it. And then 8, which is your strongest skill. So the way that would work is if you want to be, I'm just going to put an order like this. So your strongest stat would be mind, and then strength, and then coordination, and then your weakest, not a tough person. Anytime that person is going to roll for, say, a toughness roll, or I use it for like death saving throws and stuff like that, they're going to roll their d20, and it's always just this number, 14. If they're going to try to cast a spell or recall knowledge or use their awareness and perceive, they're just going to roll and try to get 8 or higher, which means it's going to happen 2/3 of the time. So that's how I suggest you do stats. That's going to make it so much quicker. Your kid, I mean, this can be and has been played with like 5-year-olds and younger. I've played preschool age with kids with this. That as long as they can identify the number, then they can use these stats. Okay, you're going to do a strength check. Go ahead and roll, which can be any melee attack that isn't used with dex weapons, which are pretty much just daggers in the way I play. So it's any melee attack. It's moving a boulder. It's grappling. It's an athletic move, which in some games, sometimes I explain to kids that this is athletics and not strength. But either way, they're just trying to get a 10 or higher. If it's something that's difficult, then they'll roll at disadvantage, which means they roll with 2d20, and they have to get passed with both. They have to get 10 or higher on both rolls. If it's easier, they'll roll with 2d20, and it's just one of those will get higher. This roll works for a multitude of reasons. It makes it static how strong you are at something. And you don't have to worry about, as the GM, you don't have to worry about how hard something is to hit, how, what is the difference between a DC check of 14 and 12? I mean, obviously, the answer is 12%, 10%, but it's not worth your energy to differentiate like that. So if this person has a skill, say they have they've acquired a skill, or they should be better at something like stealth. Okay, they have a cloak of elvenkind or something. That's something I use in my games all the time. It's one of the first things the party earns is a cloak of elvenkind. Their coordination, you could just say they roll with advantage with that, or it would just say, you would just have on the side stealth, and then whatever the stat would be, say you -3 from this roll, they just need to get a 9 or higher. So, okay, you're going to roll stealth, you just need to get a 9 or higher. That's it. Okay? If it's a pack of wolves and they're going to be hard to sneak up on, then they'd have to roll 2d20 and get 9 on both. If it's a sleeping, snoring ogre who's going to be easy to stealth up on, I would just give it to them, or you roll with advantage. Okay, this limits how much time is wasted on looking at the character sheet. The less the player has to look at the character sheet, the more time they're playing. Okay, this forces, or it creates an environment that fosters the opportunity, as I should say, because we don't want to force anyone to do anything. It engages the player to role play, because we don't have charisma, and it allows them to just, I know my mind stat. That's a mind check. Okay. And so you would just use that. Okay, that's a knowledge skill. Roll your mind check. That's a spell. Use your mind check. And if you're worried about mind being too powerful, then what I do is you use up loot space, because I only allow 10 items to be used at a time. You use up loot space with things like spellbooks and scrolls, and you have to have you have to have a divine symbol if you're going to cast cleric spells. And then with each of those, so there's different things you can do to kind of like limit what that person can do with their mind, because you are clumping together 2 stats from D&D. Anyway, I'd suggest you guys give this a try. And let me know how you like it. You can always comment below, and I will respond to it. You can email me at shepherdknightly@gmail.com, and I will reply to that as well. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, fight the good fight. Thanks.